it's a it's a sector and industry that struggles to get new entrants, to get young people enthusiastic about it. But this high tech and the approach of technology and the use of it within agriculture, whether it's in livestock or plant breeding, horticulture, it's just opening up a tremendous amount of interest amongst the younger kids around, and attracting more people to stay and to come into an industry that's a lot more vibrant than it perhaps used to be without this level of technology.
Welcome, everyone. This is MTech Podcast. My name is Nikolai Shitihin, and I have Jim Johnston with me. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Nick. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. So today we're going to discuss high tech in agriculture. Very exciting and interesting topic. So, as you know, that agriculture sector has been really heavy on high tech, and especially in recent years. But if we look back in the beginning of the 20th century, stats are telling that one farmer could feed only 4 people. And these days, farmer can feed almost 150 people. So this is how much farming and agriculture developed. And in recent years, mostly because of the technology.
Yeah, Nicky, it's come a long way, hasn't it? And it's moving really fast. And that's the fun thing about this whole area of high tech in agriculture. And look at the use of drones, for example, how companies or farmers now using drones to look at the crop and the health of the crop, and then down to individual plant level is amazing. Looking at drones to help pollinate, to help pollinate trees and orchards and plants generally. And then robots, on the fields, on the grounds, basically looking at plants and assessing the health of plants, assessing whether plants need fertilizer in order to grow, being able to individually mark out what's required in order to get the health of the crop and really, really best leveraged.
Right. And like we mentioned robots, and I've always been a little bit scared about robots, and the technology can be a little bit dangerous. And I recently read on the news that a pig in a farm, it was a free-range farm, ate its speedometer and then went back to the barn, and the copper from the batteries reacted with the excrement and set the barn on fire.
Wow.
Well, but everybody been saved and good, so no worries there.
Wow, hey, that's an interesting example. But the other thing that's really cool at the moment is vertical farming. That's a new thing that's coming in for growing crops and lettuces and horticulture and stuff. And this really exciting use of high tech and lighting and controlled environment conditions on a much reduced footprint in order to increase significantly what can be yielded from that square meterage of area. So there's some real fun developments in vertical farming.
Yeah, and like you're saying that we're trying to get as much as possible from the square meters or from the resources we're having. And this is where precision farming gets into play. And robots and technology is not super widely available everywhere. It's not at every single farm, but it's getting there. But if you start using robots and start using technology and start using precise farming, then you can reduce your costs up to 90%. For example, there is a research, this is where I got this 90%, that if you use in agriculture precise chemical application, then you can reduce the cost of this chemical up to 90% because you're not wasting most of it and you applying it only where it's needed.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting aspect of using high tech because it's more precision farming, isn't it? It's more delivering what's required for an individual plant or a section of a field rather than applying it standard across the whole field whether it needs it or not. So from an environmental point of view, and a sustainability point of view, we're talking about something here that has tremendous application, and not to mention the applications of high tech in genetics, in plant breeding, and biotechnology, where it's been used significantly over the last few years to help improve yields on crops and things. So there's a tremendous application within genetics and plant breeding and biotechnology.
Yes, and genetics been always, and biotechnology been always like a big industry, very expensive industry. But what makes technology available now is that the pricing for those smaller computers and technology dropped tremendously because they're now more available. You can get a Raspberry Pi little computer for $30 and drop a couple sensors on top of it, and there you have an IoT device that you can use. Of course, it's over-exaggerated example, but that what actually is happening right now. The technology is getting available, it's getting cheaper, and it's getting widely used.
Yeah, the other really cool thing about all of this angle is it's attracting a whole group and a whole generation of kids back into agriculture. It's it's a it's a sector and industry that struggles to get new entrants, to get young people enthusiastic about it. But this high tech and the approach of technology and the use of it within agriculture, whether it's in livestock or plant breeding, horticulture, it's just opening up a tremendous amount of interest amongst the younger kids around, and attracting more people to stay and to come into an industry that's a lot more vibrant than it perhaps used to be without this level of technology.
Yeah, and this is exactly why I'm so pumped and so excited about the industry that we're working in. And you can see that the programming and all things IT are very popular right now. And since those technologies are now in farming as well, this is what really making a big change. And I already mentioned a little bit about the precision farming that is really trending right now. But what it really is, and like I was did some digging on this, and precision farming is basically, like you said, produce more using less. So it's basically optimization. And this one is not really new. We've always been trying to optimize production from every single angle, but now we have more tools to do so. So, and Jim, I wanted to ask you this question. We've been talking about technology and you have lots of experience in poultry. What do you think would be good to have, or what kind of exciting technology you expect to help poultry industry in the nearest future?
Yeah, I think there's some really exciting opportunities to progress. From a basic level, and we talk about IoT. We had a podcast a couple of weeks ago on IoT stuff. So there's a basic level of technology that we use in poultry today around the world. But to be able to add things like robots, to be able to use a robot to automatically run across the floor in a breeder house to look for floor eggs, to minimize the impact of floor eggs, to look at collecting the data around the environment from each part of the house rather than only coming from the sensors that are there. I mean, there's a real opportunity there to do it, to look at litter quality, to be able to understand what's happening in different areas of the house. So the use of a robot that freely moves throughout that house and that floor right throughout the day would bring a lot of it really valuable information back through into what we're doing and trying to manage the environment and keep these birds performing optimally. The other thing you could do, of course, with a robot is add a sniffer in, so we'd actually start to sniff and look for smells and chemicals within the atmosphere that are produced by the chickens, where maybe it's a health-related issue, where we can capture that right at the very beginning and be able to proactively deal with it and manage it before it becomes a major problem within the house.
Oh, that's really great. And like I always thinking about the future and like future of the farming. And I imagine this chicken houses and one of those Boston Dynamics robots walking down the house and collecting dead birds or collecting eggs, what have you. But I guess it will not be exactly like that. It would be something different because we saw a lot of different startups and different developments from institutions or even from commercial organizations that are providing those robots. But it's really good initiative, and I think it brings a lot of new opportunities into the industry. Like you said, we can do so many things, so different sensors we can put on the robot or inside the house that can change the game. They can change the way we farm.
Yeah, you're right. And the other cool thing to build on that sort of discussion is cameras. Let's look at cameras that can be in that house and taking snapshots, and then hooked up with AI, we can look at the bird distribution, any patterns that are not normal. We can be flagging alerts to people. We can be understanding and using that information to look at gait scoring, how the birds are walking, and just general health. So cameras would be, and the use of them, and there's a number of initiatives around just now looking at that, and research institutions looking at how we apply cameras into the normal sensoring within the houses and stuff. So I think that's another area we can really build on.
Yeah, and like I was reading about also some different sensors, and like one of the very exciting sensors is the sound, because birds are making lots of sounds, especially when we talk about breeders or layers. They are making lots of different sounds, and some of the researchers are saying that they make up to like 30 different sounds that would have a meaning. So if we can get that data, if we can listen to what birds are saying and trying to use that information in order to make their life better, make them happier, so that they can, for example, produce more eggs, it would be wonderful. But still, there are so many different obstacles there. For example, the chicken houses are producing a lot of noise because of the ventilation, feeding lines, drinking lines. So it's really hard to hear. So maybe this is where robot would be good. So it will be driving through the chicken house and listening to what birds are saying.
Yeah, I think that's right. And that noise, and the sounds that chicken make are always good. I mean, any good stockman can tell whether, almost before he opens the door to the house, whether the birds are stressed or not, just by using his ears and experience. And if we can automate some of that, and we can cover many more houses, and we can be 24/7, we're adding to a number of things. We're adding to bird welfare. We're improving the welfare. We're adding in terms of health, monitoring of health. So we're being more proactive in terms of understanding the stress levels and the health levels of our chickens. So that will all combine with improved performance, lower mortalities, etc. So there's a whole heap of benefits by hooking up some of this high tech, as you termed it at the start of the podcast, Nick, that can work to the benefit of companies and the business generally around the world.
Yeah, and all these sensors and like all the technology that can monitor house and flock conditions really can help farmers to know more about their flocks, right? Because one of the main techniques to know what's happening with the flock is observation. Farmer would go and sit in the chicken house, listen to the birds, look at the birds, and see how they're doing. So to know if they're healthy, if they're happy, if there is something that is worrying them, and things like that. So if we can get the technology to give us that observation all the time in all the houses and tell us where birds are not happy, where there is an issue, or where there might be an issue or coming up an issue, that would be super beneficial to the farmers, because they would know where to pay their attention to.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's exciting times, and the future is incredibly exciting, looking at how can we apply all of this high tech in to improve the job we do, and improve things for the people that work in the industry, but also improve it for the chickens, and such that it has a welfare and a bottom line impact. It's a win-win situation for everybody.
Yeah, and like I was also thinking that we can collect all this information and we can combine all this information, because all different sensors, like we're talking about the camera information or sound information, or sniffing information. It all different, right? But if we can combine all this information into one data set and analyze along with the temperature conditions, with weather conditions, with, I don't know, astronomical conditions, what have you, who knows, that we might get really unexpected results on what is actually affecting chicken flocks.
Yeah, Nick, you're right. This is really powerful stuff, but it does involve bringing it back to a central database. Then it looks at, people still need to analyze it, but then more importantly, we've got tools, there's artificial intelligence, there's tools that we can add there to help us analyze that information in speedy time, and then be able to help guide decision-making process. So the future is incredibly exciting when it comes to data and use of technology within the poultry industry, for sure.
Yeah, and like we mentioned several times already, people are very important, because if, like, for example, a scientist in a lab develops some new sensors or new technologies, they're not really connected to the farm industry. They connected to the science, or they connected to technology. This is where farming experience, it really matters. This is what should be driving this technology, and technology should be helping farmers to do their job better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's to support the farmers, support the people that are out there working in the sheds and the houses and the hatcheries and the processing plants. All of this is about supporting us to do a better job. But using that technology to do a better job. So, hey, it's been good, Nick. I enjoyed this discussion. I mean, it really is a fantastic opportunity for us to grab hold of the opportunity here that presents itself and use technology in the day-to-day management of the farming industries that we work in.
Yeah, technology is the future, and we still need to feed the growing population of the world, right?
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. That's what we're here to try and help do.
All right. So it was a good podcast. I think we touched a very broad spectrum of topics and ideas, and I hope that we encourage everyone to join us on our social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Instagram, and of course, visit our website where we post all the latest and greatest information about our products.
Thanks a lot, Nick. It's been fun as usual. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. Ciao.
Ciao.